Check 1 2 3, check 1 2 3. Final checks, final checks. We are live on a beautiful, beautiful Nashville, Tennessee afternoon. It is a lovely February 10th, 2026. Welcome to the Stadium Pulse, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tegan Randolph, your host for all things college football. Anybody who takes a chance on this show, I just want to say I appreciate you. A lot of the analytics say people give this show a chance. They stay around for a while, and guess what? They end up clicking the big red button that says subscribe, so it would mean the world if you gave this show an opportunity. But nonetheless, let's dive into today's show. What we're going to be talking about today is two main topics. Number one, I got a top 10 for you. We're going to go through the top 10 quarterbacks from this past transfer cycle. Now that we know where they are and where they're going to be playing at for next season, I mean, it's to be determined. You never know what could happen with the transfer portal. Maybe some of these guys end up hopping back in and going elsewhere, but we're just going to work off the fact that wherever they committed and wherever they signed their big NIL deals, that's where they're going to play. And we're also going to talk about five teams that I think could make their first ever college football playoff this upcoming season. But with that being said, welcome to the Stadium Pulse. If you've never seen this mustache, if you've never seen this rivalry hat, if you've never seen these Seahawks winning the damn Super Bowl pennant over here, welcome. This is a college football show. College football every single week, 3 shows a week for 52 weeks in the year. Let's go ahead and get all situated and ready to go. Let's pop the neck. And I hope you guys enjoy the show. Let's do a top 10 of the transfer portal quarterbacks from the last cycle. The transfer portal for quarterbacks have changed the game in college football. I mean, the best example is what we saw in 2025. Fernando Mendoza, transfer quarterback out of Cal, goes to Indiana to go play for Curt Cignetti in the Indiana Hoosiers, a team that just made their first ever college football playoff run. And then they turn that into a 16-0 season. They turn that into a Heisman winning season for Fernando. And this entire team is basically built off of the transfer portal, but the quarterback position has become revolutionary and has sped up so many timelines across the sport of college football that it's so important to have a very firm grasp on which players went where, because you never know. Someone on this list could be the next guy that takes their team to a national championship run or potentially wins a Heisman. Miami's been able to do it for 3 straight seasons with Carson Beck, Cam Ward, and now we will be talking about Darian Mensah for like the 3rd straight episode nonetheless. But we have a top 10 that I'm going to kind of set the parameters of what we will be talking about, because I think it's important that we're not just talking about the talent. We're not just talking about the player themselves. We're not just talking about what they looked like in 2025, although it's important to bake in that fact, especially when we talk about guys like Levitt, like guys like Mensah, compared to some of the guys that didn't even start for their respective schools. And there's a couple of those guys on this list. I'm projecting, of course, when we're looking at this, I would say this list should be the equivalent of how I think the rankings will be by the end of the 2026 season. And I also believe that I'm going to bake in the fact of who was the offensive coordinator, who's the head coach that these players are going to go play with, and how does their play style mesh with that? That's so important. It's the same ideology and thinking that people should have when talking about new head coaches. What is their staff going to look like? What is going to be the situation around them, not just the coach in the vacuum? So that's a little bit of extra context for you on why this list is curated the way that it is. At number 10, because we don't do honorable mentions around here, number 10 is Lincoln Kienholz going to Louisville from Ohio State. If you do not remember, maybe you don't follow college football in the offseason, you're giving it a chance this time. Welcome, by the way. But Lincoln Kienholz pushed Julian Sayin to the brink in that quarterback battle. A lot of people forget that. A lot of people saw Julian Sayin, a Heisman contender, put up a bunch of great numbers. Ohio State was fantastic this season, and they completely forgot that there was a honest-to-God quarterback battle going on in Columbus, Ohio, and Ryan Day was holding out to the very last minute to say, yeah, Julian, you are going to be our starter, as many people assumed that would be the case with him having the 5-star prestige, and he was seen as the heir apparent to that program behind a guy like Will Howard. But now we look at a guy like Lincoln Kienholz, who isn't the pocket passer and the accurate quarterback of a Julian Sayin. He's a completely different skill set. He's a mobile quarterback. He can create a ton with his legs. Obviously doesn't have a ton of collegiate experience to base that out of, but there's a ton of skill set to like and talent that I think is going to be fantastic with Jeff Brom, one of the most underrated coaches in all of college football from Louisville. You pair that with the fact that they were able to retain Isaac Brown, a dynamic running back, one of the best running backs in the entire country. That alone is going to produce a high-level rushing attack. And if they're able to produce a little bit in that passing attack, especially in the weak ACC, where he's not going to be facing these Big Ten defenses, there's a lot to like with Lincoln going into this Louisville offense. And I think they're going to be a sleeper for the college football playoff, to be honest with you. There's a lot to like here. At number 9, though, I have Kenny Minchey going to Kentucky. These two players that we just talked about both did not start in the 2025 season, but have a ton of upside. A very similar story for a guy like Kenny Minchey is the same with Lincoln Kienholz. Two guys that lost a quarterback battle at these big brands, these large schools, very similar. Let's not forget, going into this offseason, a lot of people assumed it was CJ Carr's job to take. And that piece is very important to talk about, because when we look at the future, and we're going to be talking about quarterback battles next episode, you have to take the job. It's not just going to be handed to you on a silver platter, especially at a program like Notre Dame with a coach of their caliber. You have to take the job. And Kenny Minchey was pushing CJ Carr to the brink of starting for the Fighting Irish this year. Now, obviously, Minchey didn't start for the entire season. He now enters the transfer portal, and he was originally slated to go to Nebraska, and it's a tale as old as time. None of the commitment posts matter. None of the reports matter, from recruiting to the transfer portal, until it's pen to paper. And he originally committed to Nebraska out of the portal, but flips to Kentucky. And I honestly love the pairing with him and Will Stein. The coaching dynamic, and I have made so many videos talking about what is making Oregon's offense with Will Stein at the time so quarterback friendly. They had gone through so many different iterations of quarterbacks with very unique skill sets. Bo Nix was a flawed prospect, but a talented one at that, when he went from Auburn to Oregon. Will Stein got, I believe, the second year, because the first year was Kenny Dillingham. He continued to develop Bo Nix into a first-round pick. Then you got Dylan Gabriel, an undersized quarterback with a weak arm. He was able to produce a ton of great statistics and a great offense with a quarterback of that caliber. Then you saw the development of Dante Moore. Was it a perfect product this past season? Far from the truth of that, but you saw a ton of development from what we saw his true freshman season at UCLA, and he was in the Will Stein offense for 2 years. He started one, and he was on the bench for the first one. There's so much to like. I think Kentucky in general is one that I'm going to find myself wanting to bet they're over in terms of their win total. I think there's a lot of talent with this program, and I think their offense is going to look good very quickly. And Minchey is going to be a very clear reason on why you have to buy into Kentucky now before it's too late. You want to sound smart to your friends? Buy Kentucky stock right now, because I think it's going to work out. And number 8 is a quarterback that I've been a fan of for a long time. If you see right here, that's an Iowa State pennant from their Big 12 championship opportunity, because I was a big fan of Iowa State going into that season. And living in the DFW area at the time, I was able to go to the Big 12 championship to go root for Iowa State and Rocco Becht, who I think is going to be the 8th best quarterback on this transfer portal list. There's just a really good floor here. You have continuity with the head coach in Matt Campbell going to Penn State. You have a veteran quarterback, and what we've seen time and time again when we talk about the transfer portal is the quarterbacks who have seen a ton of football, they've played a ton of collegiate football, tend to be the ones that can be able to adapt to a new offense better. It doesn't take as much of a ramp up. Maybe they're not as talented as some of the other guys on this list, but they're going to be able to get this offense a lot quicker. And then you throw in the fact that he has the continuity at a head coach that knows his strengths and weaknesses. Plus, a little cherry on top is the fact that Penn State has one of the weakest schedules in the Big Ten. So if you're worried about that Big 12 to Big 10 jump, a veteran quarterback like that, I think, is going to eat, and he's going to eat good, because what we see with Rocco Becht is a game manager, a guy that can play the offense at a very high level, and he's going to be able to control the tempo of a game. I am a big fan of Rocco Becht, and I think it's a big reason why I think Penn State is going to be a little bit of ahead of schedule than people are really realizing when we look at the grander scheme of things of the 2026 season. Number 7, I have Josh Hoover from TCU, now going to the defending national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. I cannot express this enough. Hoover is a fantastic pairing with this Indiana offense. His skill set perfectly fits the mold of what they're going to try to accomplish, because what he did at TCU was a ton of slants. It was a ton of quick one-read looks that he did very well in. And I think the TCU situation around him was not perfect. He did not have a great offensive line. He did not have a great defense. I didn't think he had a great offensive coordinator in Kendall Briles. Now he enters a situation where Indiana is going to be able to run a ton of RPOs, which he's very comfortable doing. I think he's a little bit more of a dynamic athlete than what we saw with Fernando Mendoza. He's not as accurate. He doesn't have the arm of a Fernando, so I'm not going to try to say he's a first-round pick or a number 1 overall pick contender, but he is a more dynamic athlete. He can run the system at a very high level, and I think he's going to fit great with Indiana. I've said this once, and I'll say it again. What I think Josh Hoover will be this upcoming season is a couple grades above what we saw with Curtis Rourke and a step below Fernando Mendoza. And obviously that's a wide gap between the two. We're talking about, I believe, a 7th round pick to a number 1 overall pick. But if you get a day 2 type of quarterback in college, that's a damn good quarterback. And if their defense continues to excel, the wide receivers are great. The offensive line is great, arguably one of the best, if not the best offensive linemen in the entire country. Indiana is going to find themselves right back in the college football playoff. They hit with a guy like Josh Hoover. You have to understand, this transfer portal class is deep. So having the 7th best quarterback in this transfer portal cycle does not mean you got a bad guy. I think you got a damn good player. But at number 6, the 6th best quarterback, in my opinion, for the transfer portal is an 18-wheeler, a truck at quarterback. Byron Brown is eerily similar to the North Sellers, just in terms of frame. I mean, we're talking about Saquon Barkley leg, like quads at the quarterback position. He's got a Jalen Hurts type of stance. It's almost like a running back trying to have a wide set ready to go, and he looks for contact. I just finished watching Byron Brown's tape yesterday. This dude is a baller. He's going to be a fun player to watch. We're talking about physicality, running the ball downfield, a good enough arm, and he's in the confines of a system that we know works. USF has constantly been able to play above their pay grade, truthfully, keeping a lot of teams that they have no business of playing at a very high level. I think of Florida, where they got a win on the road. They were able to play Alabama and Nick Saban close time and time again. And Byron Brown's a player that has seen a ton of football and now has the continuity at the head coach going to the SEC. I understand it's a little scary, but I trust a guy of his veteran experience to be able to gel at the SEC level and get a ton of production. But we have to get to the top 5. For me, at 5 is one that I'm taking a bet on. I'm taking a trust, a leap of faith, if you will. I'm not giving up on DJ Lagway. If someone was to try to sell you on the storyline of what happened with Florida, and you had to hear, oh, DJ Lagway got benched, the coach got fired, they didn't make a bowl game, this, that, and the third, and Florida had a terrible year. That's what you were sold on. But if you open the book, you put on the tape, you really start to understand what were some of the things that could have led to him getting benched the season that they had, because they were able to beat Texas. They were able to have these great moments, but also have the low moments of losing to USF, like we talked about. The Kentucky game was really ugly. All these bad moments baked together. I'm not trying to excuse DJ Lagway for how he played this season, but I will give some reasoning to why we got the product that we did. This is a kid that has been injured every single season of his career, dating all the way back to high school. And when you're in an offense that Billy Napier can call a good offense, and he's going to do damn good at James Madison, the problem is it's a complex offense for a collegiate athlete that is going to be on the sidelines more times than not, and he needs reps. But he was in a pressurized system where he's having to make full field reads. He's been in and out of the lineup, and he's a young quarterback at the end of the day. The talent is so there. It's so obviously there. It's still in the room with us. It didn't walk out the door. The talent is still there. He's got one of the best arms in the entire country, can hit it from any other angle. We're talking about someone that can create and has such great mobility and pocket awareness. The problem is he does not read a defense that well. The game is way too fast for him. And to be honest, he makes bad decisions throwing the football. But now he enters a Jake Spavital offense that I have a ton of experience in understanding what are the key principles in that offense in the Big 12, a system that is not going to be pressurized, a system that is going to be simplified. And when you let a talent of his caliber really just work off the instincts and the talent alone, and he's not going to have to take that next leap in terms of the mental processing, he's going to be fantastic. I think he's going to work out at Baylor. I think he is a damn good quarterback still, and I could easily see a world where we get to the end of 2026 and people are saying, oh, wow, he really just needed a change of scenery. We were just a year early, because there was people in this offseason saying, yeah, DJ Lagway, best quarterback in the SEC. And I was in the group pushing that agenda, and I'm not going to give up after just one bad year. That's how you get burned in college. Maybe he just needed a better system and an actual healthy offseason. Now, if he gets injured, I'm going to be concerned once again, because we've seen this story time and time again when talking about Lagway. But if he stays healthy and he's within the simple offense, he's going to put up great numbers. He's just going to. But he's not better than Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt did play football in 2025, and it didn't look great. Let's get that out of the way. He did not play great this year. He makes the easy stuff look hard, but in the same breath and in the same game, in the same drive, in the same set of downs, he will pull off a play that makes you believe that he's going to be a bona fide top 5 pick. The talent is so obviously there. And to be honest, him being number 4 on this list is less about him, the player, and more about Charlie Weiss, Lane Kiffin, and this LSU system. It's going to take some time for him to get ramped up and acclimated to this system. But when it clicks, because it will click in my opinion, I don't think it's an if, I think it will, he's going to be great. Because we've seen time and time again, Lane Kiffin, doesn't matter what the quarterback is. I think they would have succeeded at a high level with Austin Simmons still at the quarterback position, not to the same level of Trinidad Chambliss, obviously, but I still believe more times than not, you could fit any quarterback into the system. It's going to work because they're going to take the ball out of his hands. They're going to make him make simple reads, get him comfortable. This offense is going to be damn good. And Leavitt is a talent that can elevate it. He's going to be very fun to watch. I think if he becomes what I think he could be, we could see another Oregon Bo Nix situation, a quarterback that can create, but the simple things look really difficult. But if he takes a step to the Oregon Bo Nix, where it's very quick, get the ball out of his hands, a lot of checkdowns, and then every once in a while you see him create and throw the ball downfield, LSU would have an elite top 5 quarterback in college football. That's why I have him at number 4. Drew Mestamaker is a quarterback we've talked about time and time again, and I have him as the third best quarterback in this transfer portal. We're talking about a kid, and I have to repeat this every single time I talk about Mestamaker because it's insane to say it. Someone who did not start a lick of varsity high school football led the NCAA in passing yards in his first year starting. And the tape is good. It's not just, oh, we're Western Kentucky and we put up, 50 passing attempts a game and have crazy statistics regardless of the quarterback because that's our system. Or I forget the Cali school that is it has Nick Nash in there, and they're San Jose State, and we produce crazy numbers every single year. It's not that case, although North Texas does throw the football a lot with Eric Morris. But Mestamaker has such a great foundation to being an elite level quarterback. It's not all there yet, but I'm buying stock now. I think he's the third best prospect in this overall portal. Then you throw in the context because it's not just about the talent. We've talked about this. It's about the situation. He's got his head coach coming with him. He's got his star running back that was also a true freshman coming with him. Wide receivers he has a connection with. And yes, he's going to be taking a jump to the Big 12, but he's not going into the SEC. He's not going to the Big 10. He's going to Oklahoma State, a program so desperate to get back to the mountaintop of the Big 12 when it was the expectation that they were going to be that type of team. I'm so excited to see Mestamaker play for the Pokies. They're going to be damn good, but they're not going to be as good as Brendan Sorsby. Sorsby is unfortunately not a secret anymore because I was going to say he was the best kept secret in college football. But when you have a $4.5 million price tag to your name, you're not a secret to nobody. He fixes Texas Tech. Texas Tech didn't even have a game manager at quarterback. Baron Morton did game manage his way to getting them to a college football playoff, but I'm talking you couldn't even Carson Beck your way to winning a college football playoff game or putting points on the board. Now you elevate to a playmaker because that's what Sorsby is. Sorsby is a great athlete. He can create downfield. He's got great touch. The accuracy is still a concern, but it's not like in the confines of the Texas Tech offense, is he going to be asked to make full field reads? Far from it. And he's just going to consistently put the offense into the best position to succeed. He's a damn good talent, and he's worth the money. And he hasn't even played a lick of Texas Tech football. I'd be shocked if at the bare minimum, he's not the third best quarterback in the transfer portal cycle. He's a lock top 3 to me, but he's not number 1. Number 1 to me, Darian Mensah is the best transfer portal quarterback in this cycle. It's for 2 main reasons. Number 1, I believe Darian Mensah, the talent, is going to work at a very high level when he has another year to develop. Every single year, it's been like a staircase. He gets a little bit better. He gets a little bit better. And is he this crazy talent that we're talking about with like pre-2025 Drew Aller or, Arch Manning, Lagway, like these anomaly talents that have such crazy ceilings? I'm not saying that. But Mensah can create. Mensah can throw with a ton of accuracy. He still has a little bit that Sam Levitt problem of the easy stuff looks hard, but the hard stuff looks easy. But he doesn't put the ball in harm's way. There's a lot to like with his ability to layer a football. And then you throw in the second part, which I would argue is the most important part. He's got Shannon Dawson, Malachi Toney, Mark Fletcher, Cooper Bartake. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like with that offense and what Mensah could do. He's my early Heisman pick, for God's sake. I really think it's all going to collectively work for him, and he's in the ACC. And Miami is going to be damn good. Once again, shocker to nobody. They're going to be very talented. This is not just a one-off where they make the national championship and then fall off a cliff. Mensah's legit, and I don't know how they continuously do it, but they luck their way into getting a transfer portal quarterback at the very last minute. But that's the top 10. Let me know who should be on this list. Maybe it's a 3-star. Maybe it's Colton Joseph out of Old Dominion going to Wisconsin. I didn't love the tape, but I'm just thinking of names that could be flying under the radar that should make this list. So let me know down in the comments. And before we finish up the show with our last segment, I would appreciate anybody to give the show an opportunity. Feel free to leave a comment. I almost like comments just as much as subscribes. Now, subscribes get you to come back, but like, I appreciate a comment. I love talking to you guys during the show. This is live. This is not pre-taped, pre-recorded, none of that. Yes, I got a Pate State shirt on. It's a little wrinkly. I'm good quality. I left it in the dryer too long. That's on me. Right hand up. Responsibility time. Which teams could make their first college football playoff run in 2026? I got 5 teams for you. And the first team, when I got asked this question, the first team that came to mind, Houston could easily find themselves in the college football playoff in 2026. There's a lot to like with Houston in the Big 12, and it feels like Willie Fritz and this program has been building up to this opportunity. Year one was a solid start for what it was. You know, Houston was not having any major expectations year one. Then year two, they're flying under the radar after a disappointing record from the outside looking in. But year two, I was buying a ton of stock into Houston. I love the Connor Wigman acquisition. I love their defense. And then they go into 2025 and win damn near every single, I believe they won every single away game. And they looked like a force to be reckoned with. Now, were they winning a lot of close games? Absolutely. But they were winning those. And with a year two coach and a veteran quarterback at the time, there's a lot to like with Houston. But what makes me excited for them in the year three, the talent acquisition is scaling up. The transfer portal is scaling up. The defense is going to be damn good. You have continuity at the quarterback position. You bring back Mekhi Hughes, who was the Tulane transfer running back that went to Oregon, didn't play a lick of Oregon football, now comes back to go play with Willie Fritz, where we saw he was a very productive quarterback. I remember when he went to Oregon, I thought that was a slam dunk transfer acquisition for Oregon. Didn't work out, but now he's going to go to the Big 12 and probably put up some great numbers. There's a lot to like with Houston. I'll keep it at that. We're going to talk about them all summer. USC is surprisingly a team that has not made a college football playoff run, and it is starting to get to that point where Lincoln Riley stood in front of that press conference and said, we're going to change what we are. We are going to change our process. This is clearly not working. Post Caleb Williams era, we need to change it. We have to be better on the defensive side of the ball. We have to just be better outright physicality-wise if we're going to be a team in the Big Ten. And now they have Gary Patterson at the defense coordinator. If you did not know that, Gary Patterson, former head coach at TCU, became an analyst at Texas, now is the defensive coordinator at USC because D'Anton Lynn went to Penn State. If I got that right, I'm going to be very proud of myself. Gary Patterson's going to be very interesting to see how does he reform this defense, as it's made strides, but it's still not at the caliber that you need it to. I thought the win against Michigan and stopping that rushing offense was a huge win for that defense, but it's still not at the caliber that you need it to be a contender, and they're going to need that with the schedule that they have in front of them. Not number one transfer portal class, but solid transfer class. Number one recruiting class coming in, returning quarterback. Obviously, you lose Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. Big blows to the wide receiver room, but it's Lincoln Riley. Offensively, I usually don't worry about it. If they could take a couple strides defensively and continue that progression, maybe take a huge step forward, could find yourself in a college football playoff run. And the expectations are starting to rise as we get further and further into the Lincoln Riley era. To go back to the Big 12, BYU is an obvious candidate here, more than Houston, obviously. They made it to the Big 12 championship. Bear Bachmeier's back. But I think the thing that makes me more excited about BYU isn't just for the fact that they were able to retain their coach from Penn State, isn't for the fact that you have year two of Bear Bachmeier. For all intents and purposes, if you just take out what happened against Texas Tech, he was a really good quarterback, and their system is going to have them in a ton of games and win a lot of football games. They have more resources because that was a huge part of the contract extension. And I think that's very interesting how they use those resources to try to scale the roster. They're not going to be at the same roster level as a Texas Tech, but they were so close to making a college football playoff run, and they were a runner-up in the Big 12. And if they were more competitive in that game, I mean, there's a chance that there's a very fair argument that they should make it. Making a Pop-Tart Bowl was still a good win for the program, but nonetheless, they are so close. They're knocking on the door, and if they continue to do that, they have to be on a list to make their first college football playoff run. Louisville is another team that I think could very easily make their first college football playoff. I've talked about it before. I'll talk about it again. Lincoln Keenholz is a very interesting quarterback to be stepping into this offense, a very different quarterback than what we saw with Miller Moss the year prior. Moss, more of a pocket passing quarterback, doesn't really handle pressure well, doesn't really create. Lincoln Keenholz, not as much of a pocket passer, but can create with his legs. You pair that with Isaac Brown, Jeff Brom, and a really good transfer portal cycle. There's a lot, there's a lot of ingredients in the pot for me to like what they've been able to do. This is a team that can punch up their weight class. This is a team that beat Miami in their home stadium. Jeff Brom, most underrated coach in the entire country. I'll repeat that as many times until people start to respect Jeff Brom as a coach, because he is going to have Louisville on the outside looking in for a college football playoff. And if you're in that realm, like we talked about with BYU, that's an easy path to find yourself, potentially backdooring your way in, especially in an ACC where you just had a 8-5 Duke team win it. If you just play a little bit better, you could easily find yourself with an ACC title opportunity and a shot at the college football playoff. Same exact thing could be said for Virginia Tech. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Virginia Tech. I'll probably mention Virginia Tech for the next 3 years, because one of those years, they're going to pop off. It's a guaranteed thing. What we see with James Franklin, Penn State fans are going to be upset about this because they always get upset about this. Yes, we are excited about James Franklin going to Virginia Tech because the expectation isn't national championships at VTech. It was expectations at Penn State, and you made the decision that he wasn't good enough for that. Was it a right? Was it a wrong decision? It's to be seen. But it wasn't because he was an outright bad coach that people were wanting him to get pushed out. This is now James Franklin's bread and butter. His bread and butter is fixing programs, and he's going to have the resources. He now has the talent. I really like what Virginia Tech has. Bryce Baker, quarterback, I believe from UNC, now goes Virginia Tech. Interesting quarterback. But James Franklin just continues to be able to build programs. And in the world of the transfer portal, where we really get to see him potentially speed this process up, what's to say it can't happen in year one? Weak ACC, good coach. I would say top 15 coach in the country. Maybe the roster isn't there, but they could probably find themselves in November saying, hey, we have a path. If we win X, Y, and Z, we could win a football game here and potentially find ourselves in the college football playoff. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But I turn the question to you. What teams do you believe could win their first ever college football playoff game, or go to the first college football playoff, let alone win a game? But nonetheless, that's 32 minutes, folks. What do they say in this business? It's closing time. It's closing time. It's time to get out of here. I got to go to the grocery store. Got to go make dinner. I will see you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll see you guys on Thursday.